Hi there, welcome back to the Community of Readers video blog. We're following the Old Testament readings for the Monkey Bar Challenge, and this week we take our final sidestep into the book of the Psalms. This is called Poetic Imagination. These last 60 Psalms, like all those before them, continue to display the full range of Israelite emotion. And as Psalms, they are creative, imaginative, theological responses to the context in which Israel found herself. There's something about poetry that gives it a power unknown to prose. The rhythm, the pulse, the pace of poetry gives an experience to the speaker or the listener which helps get underneath the surface of an idea. These psalms, as poems, whether intoned or sung from chilly field or sweaty synagogue, temple hill or desert cave, are works of a nation worn out through loving use. And by reading them, we get inside these imaginative works of faith thinking as they piece together, in a different way, theology for the people of Israel. Let's take Psalm 97, for example. So the psalmist paints this vivid picture of Yahweh's appearance on Mount Sinai. Verse 2 to 4, cloud and thick darkness surround him. Fire goes before him. His lightnings light up the world. The earth sees and trembles. In the mind of the Israelites, this event on Mount Sinai immediately conjures up an association with the giving of the law to Moses. So the psalmist continues, all worshippers of images are to be put to shame. The Lord loves those who hate evil. He guards the life of the faithful. It's verse 7 and 10. So the psalm isn't really written to make a point, like prose often is, but for the speaker or the listener, this vivid picture of the glory of the Lord helps them imagine the God they serve and so feel more compellingly devoted to his ways. It's the power of poetic imagination in the service of theology. But it's not just poetic power which these psalms display. They also are a creative and imaginative theological response to the religious world in which they found themselves. So another psalm that recalls the experience of Mount Sinai is Psalm 144. And here the psalmist is reconfiguring the imagery. So no longer is Yahweh so much about the giving of the law, but it's become an inspiration for military victory. So Yahweh gets reconfigured from lawgiver to warrior by using an established symbol, Mount Sinai, smoke, fire. But instead of words about the law, this is now words about battle. And the psalmist has done something in the mind of the Israelites. Another example is Psalm 104, where Yahweh is celebrated as creator. Creator of the heavens, the earth, its vegetation, its inhabitants, which actually, verse 26, includes a giant sea monster. But it's the context behind the psalm and how it plays out in the competition of religious ideas that really give that idea of Yahweh as creator its meaning. So to understand this is one of those moments where we've got to pan back a little bit and look at all the religions of the ancient Near East at that time, and there were some real common themes, and one of those common themes was that God ruled over the seas. The seas was symbolic of the forces of chaos in the world. So in Mesopotamian religion, which is kind of Babylon and that kind of area, the crowning moment of the creation epic is where the god Marduk slays the sea deity Tiamat and puts an end to her evil meddling. And similarly, in the Canaanite mythology, the storm god who rides on the clouds, Baal, slays the sea god Yam. So in Psalm 104, when the psalmist says, "You make the cloud your chariot, you ride on the wings of the wind," and then as part of the same stanza devotes 4 verses to his taming and restricting of the seas, the implication is clear. Yahweh is not just creator, he is victorious rival to Baal and Marduk. It is the use of poetry as powerful theology that means these psalms speak creatively and powerfully into the competition of religious ideas which did compete for the heart and the mind, for the life of every Israelite. The reality is that all theology, whether it's poetry or prose, comes from a particular context. We've had this issue all year, really, when we've been reading the Old Testament. How do we make these ancient writings relevant to our contemporary world? I mean, do we just read something, kind of take some kind of universal meaning and then just plonk it down in the 21st century? Or is the word of God more subtle, to cajole, to inspire, to inform? Perhaps the Psalms model for us a way of thinking theologically, thinking about faith that creatively and imaginatively and intelligently engages with the world around us in new and exciting, meaningful ways. The door is open. It's open to new possibilities. Christian faith is not just about restating the past. It is about faithfully imagining a future. That this has to be done in deep conversation with the past is the reason that we've been reading and thinking and talking about these texts with such devotion. But that isn't the end game. This is in order that we create a future. That is the task of real scriptural reading. It's the future that is there for the shaping. And just as the writers of the Old Testament worked hard to shape theirs, so we must do likewise. Here's just a thought to end with. The world of the Old Testament was one shaped by the competition of different religions. And the writers of the Old Testament speak imaginatively into that context. Perhaps our world is better defined by one that is dominated by science in its broadest sense. So the challenge is for religion to be able to speak creatively, meaningfully and imaginatively into that context. That, I believe, is a challenge to which the Psalms bid us rise.